Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pursuing Joy, where we share audacious stories of joy-infused strength. I am Julie Lunsford, and I am here with Chris Dawson. And Chris, just tell us kind of where you're located, what you do for a living, and maybe what you think will unfold with this Working Genius session today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Julie. I normally am in Raleigh, North Carolina, where it is super duper hot right now. And I'm very fortunate to have a mother-in-law and a mom and a dad. My wife and I each have two sets of parents who have all retired to the mountains of North Carolina. So we get to bounce around in the summertime from house to house for free. And it's beautiful. And it's like in the 70s and not very humid. So I'm enjoying that now. Yeah. And I am a leadership and culture coach. I coach leadership teams of companies in all industries and all sizes with a focus on how to take care of their people, right? Which I think is a leader's first job, is to meet the needs of the people that work for them and put them in positions to thrive. And so I help them do that. I've been doing this for almost 3 years. And before that, I spent 17 years as a high school English teacher and football coach.
All right. And what's the name of the company?
BITE 7, BITE 7. It's an acronym for Buy-in, Inclusion, Trust, and Engagement. And we increase those things by meeting every employee's or member of any kind of organization's 7 critical needs: to belong and believe, to be accountable, measured, heard, balanced, and developed.
Oh, okay. I did not. I wanted to know some of the background on that. So That's awesome. I love that. Okay. So when we talked before, I had sent out an email to the Herverse community, and you were a partner at the FEM Summit, and that's why you were on that list. And so you set up a meeting, and I asked you kind of what sparked your interest in the email that I sent out. And you said to me that you just wanted to talk about joy.
Yes.
And I thought that was amazing. I was like, okay, let's go there. I'd love to talk about joy. And you were the only person that came into the meeting with that statement. And I love that so much. And we're going to get into your geniuses later, but it's very, very, very telling of who you are, I think, probably as a teacher and coach before, and then how you kind of segued into what you're doing now. And I had a person on here the other day, and he was a teacher and then found his joy in training, just a little shift in what he was doing. So can you tell me how that shift happened for you, and then what you were experiencing in your former profession versus what you're doing now, and where joy has shown up or diminished in either one of those?
Yeah, well, I found a tremendous amount of joy in teaching and coaching. And I would argue that if it's worth doing, it's worth enjoying doing, right? And there's some things we have to do in life that we don't like, and we have to do anyway, and that's part of it. But I do think oftentimes joy is a mindset and just requires a subtle shift in perspective or focus to turn something that was drudgery or meaningless into something that you enjoy and find meaning in. And I used to tell my football team, there's different kinds of fun, and that you could substitute joy for that. And I would say when we're on the field, there's a very specific type of fun that we are trying to have. And it's not the same kind of fun that you have like playing video games at a buddy's house or joking around in the locker room. The fun on the football field, and I think this is true of a lot of kinds of work, is the fun and satisfaction that you get from doing hard things well with people that you respect, like, love, but enjoy being with. So, I thought I would teach and coach in high school forever. I got to come back to my alma mater in Raleigh, North Carolina, a big public high school that I went to. I got to come back and be the head coach there for 7 years. And I kind of just assumed coming in that I would be there forever, win a lot of state championships, have statues in my honor erected all over campus. And
great vision.
Yeah, this is great, wasn't it? And my first 4 years, we were sort of on that trajectory. We were getting better and better, and it was a lot of fun. And the program was very much character focused, and using football as a platform to teach boys to be good men and a few girls to be good women. And then my last few years, we sort of went like this, and we weren't winning as much, and it wasn't as much fun. It was harder and harder for me to find joy in it. And I certainly still did. I mean, being on the practice field was fun every day, but it got more and more stressful, less and less fun. And I was not invited back to be the head coach for an 8th season. So that decision was sort of made for me. And, so I still had a job teaching, but I decided I didn't want to stick around and just teach. And had I wanted to stay in coaching, the logical move would have been to go to another high school as either a head coach or an assistant coach and, wait my turn. But I decided I didn't want to do that either. I had, at the time, my kids were probably 7 and 4. And from about August 1st to mid to late November, I just didn't see them hardly at all during the season. It's really demanding time-wise. So I decided to try to find another career that I might enjoy.
Right.
Find not only joy in, but purpose. And to me, those things are inseparable, right? Like it, and I think this is true for most people who go into teaching. It's not, money is not the main motivator. It's a sense of purpose and making an impact. And that's not what everybody seeks out in work, and that's fine. It doesn't mean that they are not making an impact in other ways, but that was really important to me. So I did like a very broad search. I talked to as many people as I could to learn what they do. This was a lot of friends in my life that I didn't really understand their job. So I'd take them out for coffee or a beer, and I'd say, explain what you do. Do you enjoy doing it? Do you find purpose in doing it? And could I do it like tomorrow? So I asked those same 4 questions to everyone, and started to sort of hone in on a few different areas that I thought, man, I would enjoy. I know I would enjoy doing that. I know I'd find purpose in doing that. And I think I am qualified to do that. And then I ran into my new partner or boss, Walt Brown, who explained to me a job he had in mind that would check all those boxes for me. And that's how I got to Bite 7. And it's been an awesome transition. I still get to teach and coach. It's just adults instead of kids. And it is much more conducive to the kind of family life that I want.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So was Walt part of your interview process, or was that just something that happened?
Walt was a part of that. I met Walt because he was an assistant coach on my staff at Broughton. We went to the same high school in Raleigh, North Carolina, Broughton High School, 20 years apart. And in my second year running the program, he came on as a volunteer assistant JV offensive line coach. And that's how we got to know each other.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we coached together for a year, and then it just really didn't work for his schedule, but he was very generous. He allowed our coaching staff to use his office, which is very close to the school, his beautiful conference room that we used for the next 6 years for all our coaches meetings. So that's how we stayed in touch. And then when it was time for me to find something else to do, I had a very vague idea of what he did. And so I wanted to learn more about it. And that's when he came up with this position for me.
Okay. And so aside from the work-life balance, how is this, how are the activities and the things that you're doing in this role speaking to your joy or your purpose?
Yeah. I really, and this I guess will come up in our Working Genius discussion. I took that, when you sent me the link, and I thought the results were really interesting, and I thought it kind of hit the nail on the head. And it said that my two geniuses were wonder and galvanizing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite parts of my football coaching jobs, but thinking really hard about big questions of impact and duty and the effect we're having on the people in our lives and our communities and the world, and how we can best serve those people and communities in the world. And I get really excited, reading about that kind of thing and being exposed to those ideas. And then I get very excited to rally groups around those ideas. So that was sort of my favorite part of coaching. And I get to do that in my current role because really all of the leaders I've worked with, at least as far as I know, are aligned on this idea that, right, leadership is this awesome opportunity to make a positive difference in other people's lives, right? The people that work for you, and then indirectly their families and their communities, because you can put them in a position to do really great things for you at work, and also empowering them to do great things outside of work. So I get excited by that idea, and almost everybody I've worked with is on board with that to some degree or another. And so we get to spend time thinking about, like, how are we and the culture that we've created in this organization impacting these people that we work with, and how can we be better at it, right? And let's get excited about it. And so yeah, that kind of it scratches the same itch for me, just in a little bit different context.
Yes, and I had actually forgotten about what you had the process that you had gone through, because I remember saying you need to put that contemplation together. It could probably help someone else in their career. I really think that would be so helpful.
Yeah,
and I would encourage anybody wanting to make a move like that to really invest some time with other people and see what other people are doing. It's always amazing to me when I learn about different industries and whole organizations that came from making this one little thing that goes to this other little thing. There's a vast array out there. I know everybody thinks AI is taking over the world and all of that, but there is still so much out there for everyone, and for them to fulfill their purpose. I very much
believe. And I think you're a great model of this, because you've done this exactly. But I think there's more and more people realize that they can sort of create. If the job they want doesn't exist, they can create it, which I think is probably a recent-ish development, at least in terms of more and more people being aware of that. I think probably the generations before that just thought, well, these are the jobs, I have to choose one,
Yes. No, and I just got introduced into a community of dreamers, I think, is how this kind of materialized. And I was like, oh, I can do this is, but I've also, as I have been interviewing several Working Genius facilitators, and I was just listening to a podcast too of, and we'll get into the geniuses in a minute, but there's an enablement and tenacity, and those people thrive on having responsibility for other people's things, other people's visions. Yeah. And so there are people out there too. I talked to someone who her frustration was galvanizing. And she said, I tried to start my own consulting company with the Working Genius facilitation, And she just was so drained by trying to sell herself to other people. Like that part of the process was something she could not get on board with. And she knew she would just be happier as an employee.
Yeah.
And of course we need that everybody in the realm to make the whole thing happen. And so I always find it very intriguing. I listened to someone say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Mm-hmm. And I had never thought about that in the working genius realm of things.
Yeah.
But I just recall when I was neck deep in Excel spreadsheets and was dying and feeling like I was just swimming in trash. And then I brought it to somebody else, and it was definitely their treasure. Yeah. And so leaning into your genius, leaning into your purpose is also making it available for someone else to lean in to theirs when you step out of what is not serving you or isn't your purpose. So I have definitely noticed that as well.
100%. Yeah.
So I told you yesterday that your genius pairing, Wonder and Galvanizing, is the rarest pairing. So you have two geniuses, two competencies, and two frustrations. And so I did a little research as to why is this so rare? And I got onto a forum where there's other working genius facilitators, and there's this one person in this group, and she couldn't remember her name, but nobody could even come up with anybody within the working genius facilitation vast group.
Really? That's really interesting. I appreciate you doing a deep dive on my behalf. That's cool. But
well, I heard when I got certified, I was told that as well, and I'm like, I haven't come across this very often. And so what I found out is the Wonder is very introspective, very an internal thing where you're asking big questions and trying to find the potential in something and are very curious. And then the galvanizing is extremely external, and it is a very outward energetic force. Yeah. And that's very difficult for most people to go from one to the other like that. Huh. So do you feel that tension based on what I just said?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know that I've ever thought about it as a tension, but it is two, and this is I guess a sign that working geniuses is a good assessment. It definitely are two things that I'm very passionate about and get a lot of energy from, right? Like I've heard often that you're introvert, extrovert. The way you define those terms or figure out what you are is sort of thinking about where do you get your energy from. And I've always thought about it with being with other people, right? Like I get a ton of energy from being in a classroom or on a practice field or at a party or with friends at dinner or whatever it is, like that charges my battery rather than drains it. But I also get a lot of energy reading books and listening to podcasts when they're about ideas that I think are relevant to what I'm trying to do or changes I'm trying to make in the world or in my football program or at Bite 7. And that definitely also gives me energy. So, but I hadn't really thought of it that way. And then the challenge then is how do I take these ideas that I fall in love with and get other people to fall in love with them too. And what my frustrations, right, is follow through and seeing projects to an end. And one of the things that definitely characterized my coaching was like I'd be exhausted when the season ended. And then I'd spend a few months reading all these new books and listening to all these podcasts and going to clinics and getting all these new ideas. And I'd get really excited and I'd have about 100 new things I wanted to do each season. And I had a few assistant coaches, God bless them, who were like
discerners.
Yeah. They were like, let's choose one, right? Why are you doing
right?
We cannot possibly do all of these things. Choose a few. Things were working great last year. Why do you want to change? Why do you want to change all of it? And I would always think, well, it's not a change. It's really consistent in terms of its internal logic, but it's a new and exciting way of talking about it. And, I eventually had to pick my battles and just choose one or two things new each year. So the point, I guess, of that is that I would start down a lot of roads. Like I wanted to make this change and this change and this change and this change and this change. And ultimately I would only see to the finish line a handful of those things, right? Like follow through is not a strength of mine. It is something that I've had to spend a lot of time getting better at in my new role at Bite 7, because a lot of what I do is like business development, and that's all about follow through. And I'm very thankful to Walt, who got me a coach who's taught me how to do that. And we have another partner, Alan Cobb, who set up my HubSpot for me to automate all these reminders, and he taught me how to use that. So I have gotten a lot better at it, but it's not a strength of mine, right? It's like, So
okay. So you're also speaking to overall. It's great to know who you are, your pairing, how you show up at work, but overall, the idea of Working Genius is team productivity, and you just gave a really good illustration of coming in and knowing all these different ideas that you wanted to take and implement, and someone else showed up in their geniuses to say, hey, let's evaluate some of this. Let's prioritize some of this. And then there's others who can get it across the finish line. And there's no job that doesn't require all geniuses at some point. It's just knowing what your frustrations are and setting aside the extra time, and knowing that breaks are infusing the things that do bring you joy into the middle of that to kind of keep you going. I know I'm in several geniuses right now, just as a solopreneur at this point. And the podcasting is what is fueling me for those tenacious things that I have to take on later on in the day. And so no one ever gets to, it's not a get out of jail free card. Oh, these are my frustrations. Therefore, I will always delegate these activities. If you can, that's great. But also just recognizing that how to use your energy effectively throughout the day based on the different tasks that you have to do.
Yeah. So I just to interject, because we have a lot of friends in this space who are like delegation experts, and that's very much connected to this. And my first 3 years as a head coach, I mean, I just felt totally overwhelmed all the time, because I had a lot of responsibilities that fell into what you would call what Working Geniuses would call my frustration area, things that I was not good at doing, that took me a long time to do, and that I hated doing them. And they drained me a minute. Things like making sure all the fields were lined and all the laundry was done, and keeping track of physicals for 150 players and when they expire, and all of the equipment, because, we have 200 helmets and a certain segment of them, they expire each year. And those types of organizational tasks I'm not good at. And I hate doing, and they really stress me out. But I was reluctant to delegate that work to anyone else, because I assumed that everyone else felt the same way, right? And a kind of cornerstone of our program was servant leadership, and I didn't want to give jobs to other people and give the impression that they were beneath me, or that like I don't have to do that stuff because I'm in charge and I just make other people do it. And I finally had this conversation with my principal. When I found she was a great principal, super competent and organized. And we got this email one day from the lead secretary that was like, congratulate Dr. Ashburn. She just finished her PhD program at UNC Chapel Hill. And I was like, she did that in the middle of the school year? So I emailed her and I was like, we have to meet. How do you do this? Like, I need to learn from you. And she came in and she said, well, describe what you spend all your time on. And I was going through all these things. And with each one, she'd say, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. That's not your job as the head coach. You need to delegate those things. And I explained, well, I feel guilty doing that. And she said, Chris, some people like doing those things, and all of your coaches want ownership and responsibility, and they want tasks that belong to them. So you need to start giving them to people and figuring out the right people to give them to. And that was it's not like overnight I got good at that, but it became a real focus, and it was a game changer. And the last thing related to that is the very next year hired a new coach to my staff who very quickly became like my number 2 assistant head coach. And this is sort of a classic visionary integrator relationship, although I'd never heard of those terms at that time. And he would look at me at my desk, and I would be like white knuckling through these things I hated doing. And he'd be like, Chris, give me that. I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. Or give me that and I'll figure out who else should be doing that. And he became this incredible resource, and he didn't mind doing those things, and he could knock them out. Like he could listen, have like a TV showing playing on one screen and doing these other spreadsheet things that he'd knock it out in 30 minutes that had taken me 6 hours to do. No stress. And eventually I said, Tom has actually succeeded me. He's now the head coach at Broughton. He took over after me. But I would say, Tom, you're like the best thing that's ever happened to me, not just football wise, but like my marriage is happier. I get more sleep. I have less anxiety. And so you're right. Like, people, there are things that I assumed everyone hated. And other people enjoy. He was like, I like lying in the field. I put in my headphones, I listen to music. It's nice outside. And I'm like, well, do it then. I don't have time. So anyway.
No, so I was going to share your assessment on the screen, but I'm changing my trajectory now, because this is where stories and just the experience themselves paint a better picture. So you've turned into the poster child for Working Genius. Just say some of the things that you've highlighted, because I haven't had a session with you in this. I haven't educated you on this, and you've already covered a vast array of what I would. Another point in that, because you mentioned guilt several times, is the language that it gives you of, okay, you're showing up in wonder, you're showing up in tenacity. These are things that can be applauded in other people or within yourself. And it just alleviates the guilt and the judgment, as far as when you walk into a meeting and you feel guilty because you're still that person that hasn't finished the thing, or the person that's judging, well, that person can never come up with an idea, or that person never gets anything done. It takes the guilt and judgment completely out of the dialogue. And I met with Grace Gavin with No Honesty yesterday.
Okay. I've gotten some emails from No Honesty, but I can't remember how I got them.
So I'm going to be interviewing her, I think, in 2 weeks. And it was just, we could just see how this leads to just more honest discussions. And that's what she's trying to get leaders to do within their organizations. And so it completely, I wouldn't say it eliminates it, but it facilitates the honest dialogue. And no more of, I know I've met with many visionaries and integrators that are like, they complement each other in their geniuses, but there's somewhat of a breakdown in communication because they don't appreciate the way the other one is showing up in that opposite way, even though that is exactly what they need. And I won't get into this side of it, but that also happens in marriages as well. So I've seen it on both sides, because I've been working with a lot of couples within business that own businesses together. And so it's been an interesting dynamic. Yes. And I never know, whenever I get that opportunity, it typically is one extreme or the other as to what I'm about to get myself into when a couple is running a business together. I never really quite, no. But at least I have the language to give to them so that we can start explaining things and being open and honest.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back more into kind of the joy discussion. What is something that has shown up in your life that could have been looked at as a negative, or something that looked really, what someone used to tell me, you're in the middle of a growth opportunity right now. That looked one way, but now you can see it in a different way and can find the joy in that quote unquote failure or thing that didn't go the way that you wanted it to.
Yeah. I mean, the most obvious example is getting fired as head coach.
Right. Okay. I was thinking of that when you said that.
Yeah. And it's, when I think back on that, there's still a lot of, it's such your identity, my identity is so tied up in that, right? Like, I'm Coach Dawson. I get to park in front of the gym. Everybody at the schools knows who I am. Blah, 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 blah. And I always thought of myself as Coach Dawson. This is what I had been called to do. This is the way that I maximize my positive impact in the world. It utilizes my strengths, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you're not Coach Dawson, at least not officially. And it's like embarrassing. You feel almost a little bit of shame mixed in, and part of wanting to leave wasn't just that, I came here to be the head football coach, and now I'm not, so my time is done. It was also like, I don't want to be here anymore as not the guy that I came here to be. I feel diminished.
Right.
So that was a kind of painful, definitely a struggle, and it was painful, and it was all of those things. But, now that I think about my life for the last 3 years, not only do I love the job I'm doing now, but I get to walk my kids to school in the morning, which I used to have to be at school at 6:55 a.m. every day, and they were still asleep. And I'm home most days. I'm home when they get home in the afternoons, and we can travel in the fall. Like, we had never taken a trip in the fall in my whole life.
Right. Okay.
We can leave. Yeah. So it's been a great transition for me professionally, but even more personally, it came at a great time. My kids are at such fun ages. Let's say that had happened, I had waited, coached another 5 years, 10 years, and they were in high school. And I don't want to say that this is going to be true, but there's a chance I would have now all of a sudden had all this extra time to spend with them, and they would have been like, no, we're going to our friends' houses. We don't. Oh yeah. Yes. I might have missed it. And the timing ended up being perfect because they love spending time with us. We love spending time with them. So that's been a really positive, something you couldn't necessarily predict, but that's worked out really well.
Okay. When you said that choice was made for me, that definitely resonated with me.
Yeah.
And every time I've done several recordings now for my podcast, and every single person has given me a little something that I was like, that I hope it resonates with other people, but that little thing that was just for me, and makes it all the better for even taking on this endeavor. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What is something, and you may have just explained it, but if there's more, what is something that you are finding joy in right
now? I'm finding a lot of satisfaction and validation that I think are a part of joy, and the fact that, so this project I'm doing with Walt, the underlying foundations of the survey and the framework he'd been doing with his own clients. So Walt, I guess we haven't mentioned this, but Walt Brown is an EOS implementer who's taken more clients through EOS than any of the 900 implementers in the world, right? So he's been doing this for a long time.
Wow.
He's very good at it. And he'd been doing what we now do, which is built on a survey that every employee takes. And then we look at it through the lens of their needs being met, which are, which aren't, and how do we change the culture and the systems that undergird the culture to do a better job of meeting those needs that aren't being met and eliminating frustrations that aren't necessary. But when he brought me on, it was not, he didn't have a standardized process procedure. He was the only person doing, and he thought everybody should be doing this. Chris, I need your help turning this into something. And this is all getting back to something that's happening right now. So my first year and a half was a lot of research and thinking and then testing and free trials. And my first paying client just re-upped for year 2 last week. So it was the first client who had an opportunity to say, okay, we've done it for a year. Do we want to invest in another year? And they said, absolutely. And so and I have a lot more lined up now over the coming months. We're going to be at that decision point, and I'm feeling really good about it. But that's to have someone say, yeah, we've been doing it for a year and this is great for us. That is a recent development that has been really enjoyable.
Oh, no, I feel that. I have income coming in from my Enjoy Workforce Solutions, but it's all people so far that I've already intersected with in the past. So I'm not, I'm not counting it.
Okay.
And so I have to
count it, but I get your point.
I want it to be real, authentic, a brand new person that I was able to bring in. And I have this very expensive bottle of wine, and then
I love it. You're saving
sparkling grape juice for my kids for that.
Nice.
That moment. So
I love it.
The confetti will be out, and I will be celebrating. There will be a lot of joy among all of us here. So that totally resonates. Well, Chris, can you tell us what is the best way to get in touch with you, to work with you at Byte 7, or ways, just maybe your email, LinkedIn, website, all of that?
Yeah. So everything is byte7.com, BITE, the number 7.com. So my email address is Chris, CHRIS at byte7.com. The website is byte7.com. You know, if you search for me on LinkedIn, Chris Dawson, DAWSON, it'll show up. Email's probably the easiest way, but I check my LinkedIn messages, and if you go in through the website, I'll get an email if you click on anything. So would love to talk to people. It's funny, the website has been a work in progress the whole time, and we have so much going on as this thing takes off that it's been sort of an afterthought. And it was like, well, nobody finds us through the website. I'm introduced to people, and then after the fact, they'll look at the website. So who cares? But more and more people are finding the website on their own. And so I will just say, as a caveat, we can do better on the website, and we will.
Oh no, I've seen the website. I think you're accurate, and I have a name for that too. If you want, I can give you.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Well, with that, so what would you say, aside from the website? What is your best method for coming in contact with new clients, for anybody that's on this entrepreneurial journey right now? What would you say has been the best avenue for that?
Gosh, business development, finding, not just having one person introduce you to another person for the sake of a conversation that doesn't lead to anything, but figuring out more and more, like, how do I have the conversations that have the potential to lead to business? And I think in our space, Julie, so many of our conversations are we're being introduced to people who are not potential clients. Now because they work in the same space, they're also, consultants, if you want to paint with a broad brush. And so I spent a lot of time talking to other consultants
Yes.
in hopes that, they have a client who needs what we have, or vice versa. I have a
Right.
client that needs what they have. And I enjoy doing that. I get to meet a lot of people, but it's not a particularly efficient way of getting paying clients, right? It's a lot of work that leads to a very small percentage of like payout. So I would say the thing that I have found, and this is not a helpful, this is not getting started, but is at a certain point, you hit like a threshold of you have enough clients that are working with you that the word of mouth thing starts to take off. And we have hit that sometime in the last few months that has kind of happened for us.
Okay.
And it's been really great, but it took, 2 years to get there. And so now every day I have people showing up on my calendar. I don't know who they are, but they've requested a discovery call, and I meet them and they're like, oh yeah, X and X, such and such told us about you. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a client of mine. They're great. And they told someone else about it. And that's obviously that requires no work on my part other than to do a really good job serving the clients I already have. But I think this podcast is a great idea, newsletters, webinars, but it's a numbers game, right? Like there's a certain percentage of people, like I would argue everybody needs what we do, you and I, right? Like everybody needs to figure out how to have a really effective leadership team, which means understanding how to build it in terms of working geniuses and how to share the work in terms of working geniuses. And I would argue that everyone should be using what we have, which is asking your employees what they need from you and figuring out how do we give them the things they're not getting currently. But that said, only a very small percentage of people are aware that they need that and are in a position for whatever reason, because maybe they're experiencing some acute pain,
Right.
that they're ready to act on it. And getting in front of those people at the right, it's all about timing.
Oh gosh. Yes.
And so getting in front of them at the right time is the challenge. And, so there's a lot of people out there that can obviously help you do a better job of that in terms of where are you advertising and how are you getting the word out about yourself. But that is not something I am an expert in or have mastered, but every day I'm looking for ways to, to get better. I mean, do you have any tips?
I am having a lot of conversations. And I have found that referrals are the best way, whether that's through a referral partnership, but anybody that I've talked to so far has said, so-and-so, I have a lot of respect for. They said, you're the person for this, that I have to talk to you. And because I respect that person so much, if they're speaking so highly of you, then I don't have to do a lot of research. And so, and I love that. And I love hearing that. And that has been probably the most effective. It is the word of mouth. How did you get the client that is renewing right now? How did you come across that client?
That's a great question. A lot of the clients we have use EOS, and I will say that what we do it works great with EOS. It is designed to complement EOS and help you get more out of it, but you don't have to use EOS to benefit from what we do. I'd say a third of my clients have never heard of EOS, and that's fine. But early on, the easiest way for us to get the word out and to find interested parties is through EOS implementers, because they all know Walt, right? Or know of Walt. And so he spreads the word and then they reach out to him and he connects them with me. And that's how a lot of that started early on. But the company I'm thinking of hasn't had an implementer in 5 years, right? Like they graduated, they're great. This company is sort of like elite. They have a great leadership team. They do things really well, but they're always looking for like that, 1% better.
Yes. Those companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love those companies.
Who are really fun to work with. They did some amazing things to respond to the survey, which was really cool. And gosh, if I can't, I do know now.
Okay.
The CEO, or maybe the CEO integrator type, was in a Vistage group or a C12 group,
okay.
a peer leadership group, with someone else, who it might even have been one of Walt's EOS clients, and they had just done the Bite 7 thing and they really liked it, and it came up in a conversation.
Okay.
So that's how it happened, I think.
So yeah, I mean that's it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going right back to exactly that.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, excellent. Okay. Well, thank you. You're a great storyteller. So
thank you, Julie.
Thank you for sharing all your experiences in the way that you did. And I'm probably going to attribute that to the Wonder and Galvanizing, I guess, now that I think about it. So thank you for joining us in your nice, cool little neck of the woods.
Oh gosh, it's awesome. It's hotter here than normal because it's hotter everywhere right north. But even that is as long as you stay in the shade, and there's a lot of it because we're in the mountains, it feels great.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, this is fun, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.